Okay, so the resources that are available for you with GSI Markets at the moment are, we have a Twitter, okay, which gives you live feed of prices, okay, gives you lots of different prices and quotes as they go up. We have a blog, which is more about trade psychology. We have the Instagram, which shows us things that are live in the market happening now, but that are learning experiences. And we'll have a look at one of those today, which is related to trading the news, and we'll go from there. And we also have things like Facebook, where things like the video for today will be posted, and things like that, all right? So there are tons and tons of resources for you with us, just for you to take advantage of, okay? But today what we're going to do is talk about trading the news. Now, what I would say is if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at any point, okay? If I can't answer it or it's not convenient to answer it at that time, I'll answer it at the end or in an email later, all right? So, all right, let's get started. All right, so trading the news. So we're going to look at today at different types of news, all right? Firstly, we're going to go through the types and then how we can find out about the news, the different news events as they're happening, once they've happened. And then basically how we're going to react, how we're going to trade, what situations we have, okay? Now, first of all, what causes different size impacts? Now, some people tell me, they ask me, okay, so how do I know if something's going to go on for 5 minutes, for 1 hour? How do I know? Okay, well, basically, the length, generally, the size of the impact will determine the length of the impact, okay? Not only the initial movement, but the amount of time that it does that. It may even change the direction completely of a pair, of a currency pair, or of a stock, okay? Now, basically, the reason that it moves so much is when it's a surprise. And this is why people say to me all the time, oh, but I thought it was going to go up. Based on what, okay, is what I would say. Now, the reason that it's a surprise is that it's a surprise for the experts. Now, Bloomberg, Reuters, any big bank, they all have a ton of economists and they work on how to crunch the numbers that come out in the economic calendar. You and I and other people who are just trading, unless we've got our economists, and I work in a brokerage, it's a little bit easier for me, unless we've got our economists looking into it and actually giving us a different figure, then there is no guessing, okay? Because all you're doing is gambling, right? Just pick and buy or sell. And that's not what we're here to do, okay? We're here to really take advantage of something, all right? Now, one type of news, okay, is the planned economic event. Now, these happen every month at the same time, all right? Now, this is tomorrow's schedule, and you can see at 12:30. Let me just draw it on there if I can. We have the non-farm employment change, okay? I'm pretty sure this is tomorrow's, yeah. Yeah, the non-farm payrolls is the first Friday of every month. Now, I'm highlighting this one because it is the news event in the calendar. Everybody that you'll hear about talking about the news, the first thing they say is NFP, non-farm payrolls, okay? Now, the reason for this is it basically calculates the change in employment numbers in people who aren't involved in the farming industry, okay, which is basically the higher salaries, and it gives us a better idea of the economy. So a lot of people move their money in and out of dollar based on this one decision, okay? Obviously here we can see other ones. There are this economic data coming out all of the time, all right, and it's really important for us to keep on top of that. Now, even if we're just trading technical analysis, so trading from charts, having this calendar up, knowing what's happening is a must. Something otherwise we can just need to get lucky sometimes, all right? Another type is unplanned, okay? So sometimes there's a report that comes out, a trial finishes, and some kind of judgment is made. Now, we're going to look at the second one, EU hits Google with a record antitrust fine. But the first one, for example, is just about something that's come out, and it's going to affect that stock. Okay, it may even affect others related to it if they have similar technical or logistical issues, okay? So you hit, the Google one was to do with their advertising on their searches, okay, and how they give priority for their own. Now, this could affect them big time, okay? It could affect their business plan, it could affect a lot of things. And they're talking about a 5% fine on all of their revenue if it doesn't change. So it's a big news, okay? And this is something that we weren't expecting. Also something, just going back quickly to that, is that the EU made the judgment. And why is that important? And it's important because when it made the judgment, the New York Stock Exchange was closed, okay? What does that mean for us? It means that when the New York Stock Exchange opens, Google is going to drop like a rock. So we can be in there and we can sell short, we can make a sale quickly. We can be one of the first in there to make that sale, okay? Because it's happened while the markets are closed, okay? So this is really important for us when something like this happens, and we can take advantage of it because of a technical thing like that. There's also things like political news. Now, Brexit is the obvious one. More recently, we had elections. There was the British election again, and French elections also affected it. That happened over the weekend. So that caused a gap in the price from Monday to Sunday. And these things can really make a change. Now, if we look at what happened was, just before, there was a real feeling, there was a bit of a dip here, but there was a real feeling that the Remains were going to win, okay? And then when they didn't win, there was this massive drop. And this is what we mean by surprise. It only dropped so much because it was a surprise. If it wasn't a surprise, what we would have found was before it happened, we say the price would be bought in, okay? What does that mean? It means that basically the experts, if they had predicted it, this would have happened. It would have come down slowly and nicely and there, and it would have done that, okay? Because the price was bought in, because the experts were expecting it, okay? Because the experts weren't expecting it, that's why there was that sudden drop. It felt like a rock, okay? And that's the reason. Again, it's surprise, okay? There are a lot of reasons why Brexit's bad news, mainly uncertainty. But yeah, that's the main thing. If we look at it, we think of it like that. Even good news may not move the market, because if it had been bought in or sold in this case, then when the news came out, it wouldn't have affected it much. It may have just been a little blip. Now, if they'd have been sold in and Remain had come up, then it would have shot up. So it's more about the surprise, okay? Now let's have a look at the next page, if I can actually get it to go to the next page. Yeah, okay. So here's another example, Trump. Now everybody thought, well, I say everybody, a lot of people, a lot of experts thought that on Trump being elected, the market would crash. Now, in fact, most business people thought Trump was great, okay, for them, because he wanted to cut taxes and he wanted to take away some healthcare things, and the reality has been quite different. We can see that before the inauguration, once he'd been elected, there was a massive, massive upsurge. Look at this, it's a massive, massive upsurge here, okay? And there was a massive movement. Now, once he'd been elected and he'd actually been inaugurated, this is the reality. It's been a pretty steady down movement. This is against the yen, okay? So obviously we're depending on the value of the yen as well. But basically, since then, it's been pretty steady on a down movement, because people have realized that the reality of Trump is different, okay? But again, this was the people's opinion of it. So when it happened, okay, there was a move like this, and as soon as it happened, there was a massive shock, and it went up. And this is on daily, by the way. So this is over a long period, okay? Let's have a look at the next one second. Okay. So how can we find out about the news? Firstly, we can go to the GSI Markets website. Okay, we've got an economic calendar, and it shows you everything, just like I showed you in the picture earlier, okay? This is really important, just to have it up. Oh, there's an ambulance going past. So yeah, there's an economic calendar there for you on the GSI Markets website. Also, we have things like the business and the political news best off in things like Reuters, Bloomberg, BBC. Now, I love the BBC, and also the great thing about the BBC is the BBC radio. The reason for that is a lot of the time when they have a political decision, particularly UK related, okay, now obviously there'll be different ones for different countries, and I'm British, so this is the one that I go for generally, okay. Now, you'll hear from real people. Now, if you didn't know about Brexit, or you didn't think that, for example, the elections were going to turn out the way they turned out recently, you weren't listening to the BBC. The BBC were pretty adamant that the people that you spoke to, there was a lot of them, and I know they generally have to represent each party equally, but there was a lot of feeling about both of these events. So this can really tie you in. Now, how can we trade this? Okay. Firstly, we can be aware of these particular events. Now, tomorrow we have the big one, which is the non-farm payrolls, okay? Now, how can we trade this? This is really interesting. Now, here is the last non-farm payrolls, okay? This was on the 2nd of June. Now, we can see here what I was saying about the length, not only the size, but the length of the impact. Now, here we have just a slight upward movement, okay? And then it starts to come down a little bit, okay? Then we have this movement. Now, this is over 30 minutes. This is a change over 30 minutes. And even then afterwards, it changed, and it still went down over the next, let's say, 3 hours, okay? So we can see that immediate change on the day, okay? This is on the Friday. It just continued for the whole day, all right? But if we look at it in a wider picture, okay, we'll go to the hour, we can see that there was a down movement, and then there was a rally because people, this is what I was talking about buying in. The price was bought in. This was the price that people thought was relevant to the number that was predicted, okay? And what happened then was a complete change in direction, at least for a few days. The price was then adjusted. People were getting their investments out. They were buying gold. As we know, the American dollar is the base currency, right? So it's where people go when they want to store their money. Now, when that goes down, what they do is they buy gold. And what you can see with gold is you can see an inverse relation to the price of the dollar versus the gold because of that. So what happens is people decide, okay, the American economy is bad, I'm going to put money in gold. And this is why this happens, okay? Now, let's have a look at another one. We can see this is a low impact. You can see this is on the GSI Markets website. This is, I think this was yesterday. Now, this is a one globe, so this is a minor importance, of minor importance, okay? And you can see that 6 o'clock is actually 7 o'clock on my, my time zone, okay? So the 6 o'clock, there was no real movement here. I mean, you could argue there was a movement, but this is small numbers. This isn't really enough to trade off, right? So there would need to be, even though it was negative, even though it was a lot more negative than was predicted, still wasn't enough to move the market. So we don't really need to worry too much about these unless they're crazy difference. We just need to be, you know, aware. We can't trade them really, okay? Really at all. Business news. Now this is great. This is basically, I'm going to show you now how professional traders trade. And it's basically what I'm saying with Google and Bloomberg, okay? Now, record-breaking news. It's always going to, news that makes people change their business plan. News that makes people change how they're going to do something. This is all really important, and particularly news that comes when one market is closed. That allows you an opportunity. Like with Google, let me just show you, and we actually posted this. I do our Instagram, and this is our Instagram post, okay, of the day before the American markets opened. We posted this, and you can check the times. We're not posting after the fact, all right? Now here I just wrote that took a big hit, okay, because of the massive fine. They're appealing, but this 2.4 billion euro fine could hurt the stock price for some time, okay? Now this was last week. And here we can see if we had been just paying attention to the news, this was free money. I mean, this is easy. This is a no-brainer. Look, they get a 2.4 billion euros, I think it's $2.7 billion, 2.4 billion euro fine And look at this, it goes down, I think it went down, the lowest was $8.98, so it went down like $50. So if you had some kind of leverage, if you were bought in, okay, it's not particularly, it didn't go in one direction. Stocks can be a little funny, but if we just held on to that for a few days, you can see there was a definite reaction to this. Is it going to keep going? It might keep going for a while. Probably the worst of it is over now. It's been a week. They are appealing, as I mentioned. So any news on that is going to continually affect the stock price, for example, for Google. And I would just do that for anything that you love. If you like technology, get in on the tech stocks. If you like general economics, get in on your Forex. If you like sports, if you like fashion, whatever. Anything, any type of company, Apple for example, any type of company that you're interested in, then it just helps because you can just keep watching any news involving that, okay? And it's really, really good. And like I said, this was, I mean, how many ways could the stock react? It's not going to go up after a record fine, is it? So like I said, this was pretty easy. And again, what we're seeing now, we have this big decision, which is Trump, okay? Now, I believe this was the day, okay, when it kind of went down and shot up, okay? Now, all we can see, really, we wait for the decision all of the time. We have to wait for the decision, okay? Unless you, I don't know, you work in a brokerage or Bloomberg, Reuters, the BBC, and you have economists telling you something or something like that, then you have to do it like this, okay? You wait. Now, if you'd have traded off Trump, for example, now there were weeks of easy trading there, you know, after the first week, we can see that until Trump came in, there was going to be no change, okay? Trump came in here, okay? And since then, I mean, there was at least, let's say 4 months of consistent negative growth, okay? So this is really important that we look at the major decisions. The same things with Brexit. Now, something we can do with Brexit still is when there's a negotiation. What happened in the negotiation? Who came out better? Was it positive? And keep an eye on the markets. Follow it, okay? Follow which way the markets went for each one. Now, did they think it was positive? Generally, a stronger position for Britain is going to mean a stronger pound. Vice versa, the euro might bump up a little bit. I don't think the euro is affected quite as much as the pound because the pound is just a small part of Europe. But this is how this is how it works. All right. So if there are any questions, feel free to email me. I will certainly reply to them if possible. All right. I know this webinar is going to be going out on Facebook and everything like that. So if you have any questions, if you are a new client or you would like to be a new client, just get in touch and we'll help you out. Okay. For people who do make investments with us, we do have tutoring depending on this, obviously the size of your investment. And yeah, so if you're looking for education, every week we've got webinars in Spanish, education, Spanish and English. These are free for new customers, for old customers, for potential customers. It's non-discriminatory. So is our Instagram, so is our Twitter. The only thing that really is restricted is the coaching, okay? And that's generally done by myself. So if you have any questions, anyway, feel free to email me. All right, well, thank you very much, and I'll get to those questions by email today, as I don't want to fill everybody's heads with too much information. But what I would just say again is don't guess, okay? If you're guessing, okay, there's somebody much smarter than you with much more information ready to their hands that's making a better decision than you, okay? Now, you might get it right, you might get it wrong, okay? But it's have to know that it's luck, and that's all it is, okay? So luck. And you don't want to be trading off luck unless you've got a really good strategy of how to get in, how to get out, and you've practiced it and practiced it on a real account. What happens with a live account is that When a price shoots up, okay, what happens is there are lots of buyers, tons of buyers, okay? Conversely, there are no sellers, okay? So what trade that might have taken you a second now might take you 5 seconds. What does that mean? It might mean, and also the spread might increase. It might mean you might get a slippage. You might get a slippage of 10, 15, 20 pips, okay? But if you see the news, you wait for it to come out, you check the spread, you make sure that it's going steadily, maybe even you wait for it to just pull back a little bit, okay? Then you can trade it, okay? Just let's not play fast and loose. Let's make sure, and make sure you're doing your risk management. Let's not put in 30% of our account. Sounds like I'm in the middle of the Bronx here, doesn't it? Let's not put in 30% of our account. Let's be conservative, okay? There's always going to be another news event. All right. Thank you for watching, and as I said, I hope to hear from you. And take care. Have a good day.